Hey, greetings everyone. We're back. Sorry for the technical difficulties there. Welcome, Crystal. We're back with TRC Radio, the Refreshment Center inaugural radio broadcast.
That is excellent. I'm happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me on tonight.
I really appreciate you being here, walking me through all of this tech stuff.
That's no problem at all. Happy to be a little bit helpful. But yeah, this is your show, Gabby. So you let me know when I'm supposed to jump in with some questions here, and I'm just going to let you take it away and kind of just play off of you.
Well, I kind of just wanted to start off explaining what the Refreshment Center is and sort of what my inspirations have been and our purpose and kind of what we're looking forward to do in the coming years. If we're still here with PSN, we hope to be.
Excellent. Sounds exciting.
Yeah.
What is TRC? What does the Refreshment Center, where did that come from?
Oh my God.
Is that like one of those really awesome stories?
It's an old story. Some people might remember me, Facebook folks might remember me from, does anyone remember MySpace? It's still there. It's hardly ever used anymore.
MySpace isn't still there. You lie. It's a myth.
I call it My Spackle. It's so full of glitterati and silliness and games and stuff. But I started a blog there during the Bush administration, the first 4 years, because I was so just frustrated seeing what was happening to the country and the Constitution, and it was just awful. And I said, I can't be the only one feeling like this. So I started writing a little bit about it, and garnered about 300 people following me at a time. And then I got involved in politics and working the polls and all that stuff, all that patriotic duty stuff. And it had a drive-in theme and pictures of drive-in movie theater speakers and all that stuff, which is initially how I started it again at the blog, the direct blog. So yeah, it kind of started off as just me ranting about Bush Jr., Mr. W.
There's a lot to rant about. When, I mean, there's so much, he was just such a great target, though, because he just gave you so much to work with.
It's true. I mean, he was a cartoon character.
He really was.
When he won that election, it was just sort of like, okay, if this is where we're headed, then we need to start talking a lot. Yeah. And, after 9/11, it was a little, everybody was dealing with a lot of devastating stuff. Some people did not know what that meant. And it woke a lot of people up to a lot of different things that they had never bothered to look into before. So in one respect, it was a very mass awakening on a different level. But I think how our government steered the conversation away from what was really going on,
right.
And manipulating media, public sentiment. And it was all about fear.
Yes.
And it really took a great big hold on people for a long time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Is that kind of how TRC media bloomed, to kind of weed through all that?
Initially, I think for me personally, it was just a way for me to rage against the machine.
Right.
Gnash my teeth, and I was a single mom and doing stuff on my own, working, and it was just my release, sort of. And but people seemed to enjoy it, and my style of rant, it was sort of a mesh between my mom's family is from Virginia, and my grandmother had a way with words. It was rather colorful. And
nice.
I ended up with the nickname Hunter S. Thompson with tits. So
nice. That's a good one.
I embraced that.
Yeah, definitely. How can you not? Come on, that's a great one.
Absolutely. And initially when I first heard it, I stopped for a second and I thought, and I went, yeah, okay, I'll take that. He's one of my mentor. Well, I can't say mentor. He's a hero of mine when it comes to free speech.
Right.
But yeah, Hunter S. Thompson with tits sans the hallucinogenics and booze. I wish I
just no fun.
Yeah, I'd love to be writing for Rolling Stone. Come on.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, during that time, I was just getting started as a professional photographer. I did it as a hobby before that, and then social media came about and it grew and grew and grew. So started dipping my toes in, starting my own thing online, and it's just taken off since then.
Very cool. That is very, very cool. So where is TRC Radio now? We're on the air. We're on Facebook. We've moved away from the glitter of MySpace. What are your goals for TRC Radio?
Well, the goal, there's a lot, actually.
Yeah, there is in there.
I feel like I have purpose, and I have my intentions. And are a little different because that, you set your intention, you realize what you think you're going to be doing, and then reality has its way with you sometimes, and you just kind of go with the flow. But I want to build upon what I've already established. Most of this has been sort of a dream for me, having a radio show, but my long-term goal is to have an entire radio station. Sorry, PSN.
Jackal encourages entrepreneurship. I'm sure that it will be fine.
Excellent. I won't step on anyone's toes then. But, most of my media journey started with photography and music. And I used to host house concerts in downtown Indianapolis and was a music promoter for a short amount of time. And about that time, around 2008 was when the stock market crashed, and a lot of people got real scared about spending money on, what they would consider frivolous things. So,
right.
It's a tough business to be in. It's not an easy thing to do. But I feel like I did have my fingers in a couple of different media pies, I guess, back then, and the one that really stuck through was radio, because I had worked with a local net radio station in Indianapolis and kind of got my feet wet, and I really liked it, and it just kind of never went away. So yeah, eventually I would like to be sharing music, which is where my heart is. That's how I started this whole journey. So with the music, I feel like I have this giant pool of really amazing people, artists, musicians, poets, that I'd like to share that really don't get a lot of airtime, and they should. A lot of independent artists need more airtime compared to what you hear on Clear Channel.
Yeah. Definitely.
Should I hear that song that was recorded 15 years ago one more time, please?
Come on, you love it. Yeah. That's why we love listening to it. So, and Gabby, I originally met you through Occupy Marine, so I know that you have an opinion about, the Occupy movement and all that good stuff. So, kind of, what is your feeling on that? And then you can go ahead and spin that into whatever you want to talk about tonight.
Okay. Well, Occupy was something that I witnessed while I was dealing with some other issues that I was investigating, economic issues, social issues, resource depletion issues, and this was, 2 years ago. Like I said, originally I wrote a lot about politics, but after the BP disaster, my focus shifted very quickly to corruption and environmental impacts of that corruption. Excuse me.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one who's completely outraged.
Oh, honey, I made some connections with some people in the Gulf, and wow, I mean, it exploded, and you would have thought everybody who had a truck or a car was just, it was just really interesting how people responded and reacted to it. And I think that was my my secondary key into mainstream media is really dropping the ball. And I can honestly say the first time I witnessed something going on with mainstream media that should have been reported better was Katrina. That was when I realized media was failing miserably.
Yeah, and I was I evacuated for Katrina, and then I was in New Orleans during the Gulf, and I can absolutely 100% no idea, just none.
You could testify. Yeah. And, cheers to all the people in NOLA and the Gulf states and who've just been through hell.
Right.
My heart goes out to all those folks.
And I got to give those folks a shout out because, for all the crap that New Orleans takes for being the party city or whatever, and for all the people who like to, really harper on people of New Orleans for not leaving when there's a hurricane, you really got to understand these people and understand their respect and their really diehard dedication for their homes. And that really is the end of it. And in New Orleans here, look, guys, here's the reality of it, that, a hurricane threatens to plow into New Orleans every year. And the smart ones who are not panic driven normally will wait until about 10, 12 hours before the storm hits to make a decision of whether to stay and whether not to go. Because it's not until, you get down to that 0 hour that you realize, whether or not this is going to be, you're going to spend $2,000 for a road trip, or if you're actually going to spend $2,000 because, God forbid something happens. And, I've evacuated plenty of times where, it didn't even rain in New Orleans, so you can't fault people for staying for Katrina. And, just beyond that, after it happened, I've never seen a group of people more willing to take the bull by its horns and do it than damn self.
Oh, sure.
And that's really,
they did the same thing after the disaster. Yeah, the oil disaster too. BP's mess that they
especially about that. And Gabby, I'll tell you something that really bothered. I actually went to a town hall meeting because they had a town meeting in City Park, and they brought in the Coast Guard, they brought in BP spokespeople, they brought in the EPA. And I have never heard the biggest crock. I mean, they sell it, boy.
Girl.
They sell it to you. You had people.
Yes,
you had people from the EPA standing there telling me that Core Exit was awesome. They had little water samples, and they had charts and graphs and pictures and whatever, and they were just like, Core Exit is the best thing since fucking sliced bread. It's amazing. Yeah. That's how they were telling it. And then I went up and I asked the one for BP because I was very curious about all the workers on the beach and how everyone was getting sick and how they were making these people sign non-disclosure agreements so they couldn't talk to the press about the reality of what they were cleaning up or what they were not cleaning up. And I asked her point blank, what is BP's stance on this? And smooth as anything, this woman says to me, she says, honey, BP says, our employees are absolutely free to talk to the press. However, we do contract outside employers to handle some of the cleanup work. And if they require their employees to sign a non-disclosure, well, that's not on BP. Yeah.
Did you have
I laughed at her. I literally, I laughed in her face.
Did you happen to see that documentary that Spike Lee did for HBO?
I did not.
About the levees?
I did not see that one.
Well, there's this marvelous little montage of people reciting what they would, BP's call letters, but they were saying other things, and my favorite one was, bitch, please. Yeah.
Ridiculous. And the amount of money they tried to hand out after that thing, everybody's getting free $3,000, $5,000 or whatever, all the hush money that everybody was taking. The best part about it was the people who, weren't directly affected by the oil spill, we got paid. We got paid, no problem. People who were actually affected by the oil spill had a much more difficult time actually getting money from BP.
Well, and I think that was because that really affected their incomes, their livelihoods, especially the shrimping and fishing folk and, the folks that really relied on, tourism as well. But at the same time, you still see commercials from BP, folks, come on down to the Gulf, and you see people eating plates of shrimp, and it's just like, oh, Lord, what have we done?
Yeah.
And then I read an article about how they took that shrimp from the Gulf, and because they couldn't sell it, or they weren't making any money selling it, that they contracted it to be sold to the military. So it's like, really? I mean... And then and then the whole PR thing with Obama letting his little girl, wade in the surf down there. It's just like, I don't quite understand what's going on. But BP, that disaster was the rabbit hole that I went down after learning how these oil companies work, how they operate. And that's when I learned about peak oil and resource depletion, which is hard enough to wrap your brain around because that's just this huge, it will affect, it's affecting everything now. And that's how I came across Mike Rupert's work. Michael C. Rupert, he wrote Crossing the Rubicon. And he's been sort of a mentor to me. And for 2 years, I spent digging through this information that he put out and, a handful of other people had put out. And it was kind of mind blowing. So my focus shifted more towards environmental, knowing that the economic side was probably just going to take care of itself because peak oil is just, it's messing everything up at this point in time. Not to mention the war on drugs. The failed war on drugs. I spent 6 months of, at least, I took 2 years studying, and then during that 2-year period, I spent 6 months of that time alone in a hotel room, just trying to get over my own cognitive dissonance, and did a lot of soul searching. And I ain't gonna lie, it was a rough time, and I'm actually writing about that in the book I'm working on, which you and I just talked about not too long ago, which is about my journey through all of this, just how all of this started. But yeah, the whole environmental impact is what I'm really keyed into now. Not that there's much we can do about a lot of that either, but we can do what we can where we're at. And I think that is an extremely important message to put out to people. Do what you have with what do what you have, do what you can with what you have where you are. And that's kind of my focus for the Refreshment Center, is to focus a lot on local resilience in communities, permaculture, victory gardens. You just DIY. This is the year of DIY. It's just everywhere.
I agree. It should be, and damn it, it should be. It really should.
Yeah. There's just so much stuff that we create that these corporations make, and you think about it. Most of the jobs. Your manufacturing jobs are overseas, thanks to NAFTA. And I'm not even going to get into the Trans-Pacific Partnership. That's NAFTA on steroids, if anyone doesn't know. But, all the stuff that comes from China, all these plastic wares, we go to Walmart, and Walmart's just chock full of plastic stuff. And these things do not biodegrade, and they're everywhere, and you'd be amazed at what you can do with what you already have. And rebuild something or, apply it to something else. There's just a lot of ingenious stuff going on, and I really want to focus attention and energy on solution-based stuff. There's a lot of, pissing and bitching and moaning and, petitions just flying around everywhere, but do they really work? I'm not even sure that they work anymore. Because the system is just corrupt.
Absolutely. You're 100% right. It really is. And you know, I'm really happy to see that it's the year of do it yourself because, you know, I'm not an anarchist. I wouldn't say that I was, but I would say that I'm 100% about us at least figuring out what we can do for ourselves before we start looking for other people. Whether it be, you know, a government institution or what have you. And that's really why I'm so excited about the do-it-yourself movement.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, and I can agree with that sentiment. But at the same time, I think in teaching people to do those things, that it builds community. So instead of looking at, or to some technological savior, rethink technology, because the technical a beer can is technology, if you think about it long enough. And what do most people do? They recycle it, but there are a lot of things you can do with a beer can.
That's true. That's true. And you know, and that is the awesome thing about being broke. It just teaches you to do cool shit.
Amen to that.
You know, it just does. I had this moment of clarity about it because I was getting ready to move and I just didn't have a lot of money to move. And so I had to find creative ways to pack things, you know, and creative ways to save space and all that kind of thing. And I remember in the middle of it, like really being excited that I didn't have any money to go out because I would have blown like $100 on like boxes when I didn't need to.
Right.
You know, just not having it just forced me to like rethink the situation. So, you know what? Bring it on. Do it yourself. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, when we get used to having things, you know, it's just like, oh, I need this. I better go buy it. Well, you don't really need to. I mean, there are other options. There are always options. And, the whole spend our way to freedom is just so ludicrous when you consider the debt and I call it the debt, not our debt, because it ain't my debt. I didn't
get him.
I didn't rack that up.
Get him.
And neither did you, and neither did most of the country. So there's a handful of people sitting on Wall Street that racked that up for us. Wasn't that nice of them?
Nice of them.
Yeah.
And you know, and that really to me speaks more that why, you know, I love that what you're doing, Gab, and I love what, you know, OMC's doing and you know, the other Occupy movements, because it really is just not forcing the issue so much against them, because Wall Street's never going to change. Like, they're never going to not be greedy they're just not. So we've got to. And, you know, the only way you take power away from Wall Street is, you know, you hit them where you just stop buying it. Right. So, and I think, and that's the biggest threat of the do-it-yourself movement is, you know, eventually the more it spreads, and I'm 100% positive it will, because it just makes sense.
Well, I mean, it's just going back to old school principles.
Yeah.
That have existed since the Depression. You know, I mean, my grandparents survived the Depression, and, you know, when I talk to my parents about this, especially my dad, he looks upon these times, and it was really hard, and they struggled horribly. But when I talked to my grandmother and I heard stories about that time, I never heard anything terrible. I never heard anything so horrible. And mostly I learned about the ingenuity of that time and how people came together and took care of each other during that time. You know, she had a garden, her neighbor had a pig farm, and the neighbor down the street had a dairy, and they all, okay, this guy's got pork, we'll give you some milk, here's some vegetables, and everybody took care of each other and, you know, watched each other's back. And that's what community building is. I mean, we really don't need all of this government. It's just, you know, people talk about big government, and it's too big. And, you know, the left says, oh, but we need this, and we need social programs. I'm like, honey, these social programs are going away.
Right. And
under this president even.
Everything they touch, they screw up. They just screw up.
Yeah. I mean, I've just gotten to the point where, what's that quote Buckminster Fuller said? You don't change an existing paradigm.
Right.
You can't fix a broken paradigm. You create a new one.
Right.
And making the other one obsolete.
Absolutely.
And I think that mortifies the system. You know, people who live outside the system and make things work. And you know, the government's good for some stuff.
It is.
I'm not going to say it's not, and it has worked to a point.
Right.
But we're looking at resource depletion, and we're looking at climate chaos that it ain't going to stop. It's going to get worse. And we need to be prepared for that, especially locally, because, as much as I enjoy reading about green technology and the new, technological breakthroughs, fields full of solar panels, you need oil to make these things. You need, manufacturing to make these things. And that's just more resources we can't afford to rape from the planet anymore. So yeah, it's becoming closer to the land, and anybody can do it, and you can do it in the city. Just get some growing boxes, grow some vegetables, and you'd be surprised how much that lowers your grocery bill, how much healthier you'll feel, trying different techniques, and that's the DIY stuff. I mean, people are doing these aquaponic gardens that grow greens and fish, and it's like, who needs Walmart?
Oh my God, the cesspool that is Walmart.
I got sushi and greens if I want them.
Gabby, you've got a great question from the chat room. Sean is asking, yes and no, if Montasso passes a bill making vegetable gardens illegal, then what?
If Monsanto passes a law that makes vegetable gardens illegal,
then what? And that's a really great question, because I've actually heard
I don't know.
stories that it is moving in that direction. Interesting enough.
Well, it is, because we have the former CEO of Monsanto sitting on the board. He's the head of the FDA.
Right.
And then we didn't get this labeling pushed through in California, which, that was significantly fishy enough for me to go, I give up on the Democratic Party at this point, because
give up on them both. You should be giving up on them both.
Yeah.
Sean, I say do it anyway.
Absolutely. Don't let big corporations dictate what you do. You do what you want to do. That's freedom. You gotta use it or lose it.
True that. And I love reading stories about how these small towns just outlaw fracking, in their communities.
Isn't that excellent?
It's fantastic. I love it. Like, not waiting. No, seriously, we've made it a law, and in this, it's illegal, so you can't do it. No, seriously, we're not playing. I love that. That's amazing to me.
So you gotta know, you gotta wonder, okay, what's their next move? What is this company's
what do you
next
do
move? And the more people that do that, the more cities and towns that do that. I mean, imagine, like, even the Keystone Pipeline. They had this whole thing mapped out, and what if people go, we don't want it, it's illegal here. Imagine this long, winding, snaky...
Yeah, I know, and I love the amount of protesting on that, too. I really do.
Yeah, there's been some beautiful stuff going on with Idle No More, which I think is the best.
That is beautiful.
It's the best human movement that I think I've seen in my lifetime, and I've read about a lot.
Talk a little bit about that. Idle No More. Definitely. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I'm still learning about it myself. It's an indigenous group of peoples, First Nation peoples in Canada that are fighting the tar sands. It's Keystone, but it's also the tar sand, the companies that extract the tar sands oil, which is like the worst, most destructive, wasteful. It's just like the worst thing you can think of. I mean, if you've ever seen The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings and you think of Mordor, that's what tar sands do.
Yeah.
If you you could look at a beautiful, pristine forest, and when they're done, it looks like Mordor. That's tar sands.
Yeah, it just sucks. There's just no.
Yeah,
it just sucks.
It's dreadful. And but there's a deeper current through that movement that's it's very spiritual, and it's it's about connecting. We're all family, and some of these tribes have not been able to even celebrate their own they've not been able to do their own rituals in public. Like, it's been made illegal in some cities in Canada. And they can't wear their regalia out in public. But now they're out there and they're doing it. And I don't think that people realize how significant that is. Like, you see lots of pictures of, Native American or Native Canadians and First Nations people dancing and chanting and being in the streets. And, people look at that and go, oh, okay, cool. But they don't realize the weight of what that means to them as a culture.
Right.
To be able to even do that in public is a very celebratory and, well, it's a very warrior-like thing. Which is, it's different than the Occupy movement, and I'm not going to diss the Occupy movement. I've met some stellar people. But, any movement that large is going to gravitate not so great people. But my experience with it has been way more stellar people than the little groups over here to the side that just, they're trying to mac on it.
There's just so much to learn from them. I mean, it's like it's a reclaiming of everything that has been lost. And it really, in the best possible way, too. I mean, that's just good for, that's really, like, I'm a traveler. That's the first thing on my to-do list. Go find and learn something. Sit down with somebody and just spend a month and just learn something that actually is going to be useful to my life. That would just be amazing.
I'm sort of like, if I stop learning, just shoot me. What's the point?
Just, please, teach me something. That would just, please, anything that you know. It would be such an honor. Just such an incredible honor.
Yeah. When I was thinking of the Occupy movement, I was working with a dear friend of mine, Andrea Tosi. Hello, Andrea, if you're listening in. He's the founder of the Repeace movement, which is an online, sort of a virtual protest. And you take 3 pledges, getting money out of politics. What was the other one? One of them, the big one for me was about free speech and non-censorship and getting money out of politics. But I was working with him with his movement about the time that Occupy kind of sprung up, and this was during that 6 months that I sequestered myself in a hotel room while I was learning about peak oil, and I was low, man. It was like, yeah, what can we do? What's going to happen? This is just ludicrous. And then Occupy popped up, and I was just like, oh, please, oh, please, oh, please. Please let this be.
An awakening fun, and that's really what it is, because I swear, like, it does, when you first learn about the problem, and you first start to care about that thing, and then you start to do research, let me warn everybody, it's bad. It's horrible.
It's
because you,
Alice.
Oh my God, you do. That's a deep freaking rabbit hole. And it's just, when you realize and you connect all, it's just everything, and you're like, are you kidding me? It's massive. It is overwhelmingly massive.
Yeah, and I can say this when you get to that point, and I think of myself as a relatively intelligent person, but even I was sucked into, the media garbage. And that 6 months that I spent alone researching, I did it without a television. I got rid of my television. I didn't listen to the radio, and I got all of my information online and through books. And I came out the other side of that rabbit hole. I felt like I'd slayed a Jabberwocky, and I was ready to do something.
You do, I know. That's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah, rest assured, people, you definitely come outside the other side of the rabbit hole, because there is a solution to this massive, massive problem. There really is. It's very, very, and tell them, Gabby.
Yeah, I mean, it's us. And if we're not working together to solve some problems, then, good luck in your bunker. People aren't going to last that long living like that. They need to connect with their neighbors and build their community, because that's where our strength is.
It's true.
Yeah, that old axiom, united we stand.
Sean in the chat room says he's been doing it since 1987 and he is totally frustrated. Don't give up, Sean.
Don't give up. I mean, the awakening side of this is huge now.
I think it's really just starting to really explode. What do you think about that, Gabby? Because I know just from conversations that I'm slowly starting to have with random people, the things that people bring up now in conversation to me, it's almost like, really? You too? Okay. Like, it is awesome. So it's not just me. Like, everybody is just slowly just like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And that's how connections get made. Everybody kind of, when you start to talk about it and then people connect the dots, and then you realize you know other people that have connected the same dots and they might have more information to lead you to other dots, and then this big picture emerges. And that's kind of how my media journey has kind of progressed. I mean, I've just been out there for everybody to see. I've fallen on my face several times and been pissed off and had my ranting and got over it. And, you know, I go within for a little while and deal with that, come back at it. You know, everybody in the world that's dealing with all of this stuff and trying really hard to get a positive message out there. And it's not easy because it's difficult, especially if you have television and you're watching mainstream media. You just feel useless. And that's the point. There's no good dialogue happening. People aren't learning anything. It's just the same old thing. And, you know, it's like getting shocked with a cattle prod every time you turn the news on and you get mad. Well, when you get mad, what do? Do you talk it out? Do you bitch and moan? Or do you eat? Or do you drink? Or, you know, most people, and I'm kind of leveling this to baby boomers because, you know, they had the role, you know, they had the time in Vegas with the cheap oil, and now we're paying the cost. So we can sit and complain and moan, or we can be solution-based. And I want to be solution-based. You know, I don't want to sit in a corner and cry what could have been, or, you know, I want to make things happen. And at the same time, I have a daughter, I have nieces, and when I look in their faces and, you know, history, God only knows where we're going to be even 5 years from now, let alone 10. But I have these kids that look at me in my face, and I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror as well as in their face and say, this is where I was during this moment in history, and this is what I was doing. I didn't ignore it. And I didn't ignore the signs, and I did the best I could at the time, with the time I was given, as Gandalf would say.
There we go. That's a good answer. And you're right. That's the only way to do it. There really is. Because you know what? It amuses me personally. It amuses the crap out of me when I hear people say, save the planet. The planet will be fine.
Planet's going to be just fine.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand why people don't understand this. Mother Nature knows how to fix what we break. What we are trying to save here is our lives. Because look, there's only so many times that you're going to be able to dump oil in the Gulf or dump nuclear crap over in the ocean over by Japan, or, you know, there's only going to be so many times that we can do this and there not be serious repercussions for us. And let me explain this to you. If Mount St. Helens goes off, there is not a bunker that will save you. And this is not to sprout fear to anybody. This is just common sense. If we continue,
it's science.
We're going to get flicked off. And that's just so, like...
Yeah. George Carlin said, you know, she was just going to shake us all off like fleas. And she will. And, you know, there are climate tipping points that we simply can't do anything about now. But it's just, we can't do anything about them. The warning bells were sounded and the science was ignored, and a lot of money went to having that science ignored, and now the consequences are getting more and more dire. So, somebody asked me today about how I felt about Obama's inauguration blurb about climate science, and, you know, we need to get serious. for future generations. And it's like, well, we needed to get serious 20 years ago.
Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me another one. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of climate information that I get on a daily basis. And, one of my mentors and friends, Dr. Guy McPherson, he had me out to his ranch out in New Mexico, and I worked the land a little bit, and he travels around the country and overseas and has done lectures on climate change, climate chaos, the tipping points, all the data that's coming in, and it's not good. It's not good.
At this point it really can't be, so I'm not surprised. And that, to me, is just even a bigger reason for, you to be on the air, Gabby, doing these shows to teach people, if there's ever going to be a time to know how to do things yourself, yeah.
Oh, it's going to be sooner than later. Because what we're looking...
There's only so much she can take, that she has to,
yeah.
This is just something that just has to get fixed.
Well, I don't know that we can necessarily fix it, but we can do as much as we can where we're at.
I didn't mean us, I meant Mother Nature.
Sure. Yeah. We're going to we need a lot of fixing. But yeah, I mean, where you're at, and you can heal, permaculture, for instance. I like to think of it as healing the soil. And that's exactly what it is when it boils right down to it. And you use native plants. You're basically just taking the place that you're in back to where it was before. Instead of putting a palm tree where it's not supposed to be, or certain types of grasses in your lawn. I hate lawns. Grow gardens. Don't grow lawns.
I love that movement. It's making me so happy.
It's a beautiful thing. And, but you have still these little fascist things that pop up, your whole, what do they call them? Neighborhood association Nazis is what I like to call them.
Those people are crazy.
I know, look, you can't have that there. It doesn't match the rest of it's like, oh, really? How old are we? How long has this been going on? If your grandparents and your great-grandparents could do this, anyone can do it, and they can get through it. It's just, you just have to, and yes, it's work. I'm not going to lie. There's work. But it's the best damn work you will ever do. You get your hands dirty, you're out in the fresh air, and to be able to grow something with your own hands and get it to your table is just the most awesome feeling. And it's better for you. Bonus.
It's a win-win. It really is. Just a win-win for everybody. It is. And just get started. That's what people just need to do. You just get started in any small way you can.
If it's too late, just do it.
Pick something. Pick one do-it-yourself project and then just do it. And see how it goes. Just start. Just do it.
And that's one of the things I want to do in the future is have people on that know how to do these things, or certain types of things. Like, for instance, I was just talking to someone the other day about bicycle generators. Connecting a generator to a bicycle, and you can pedal and...
I want to know how to do that so bad.
Yeah.
I row. I have a rowing machine that I'm, dead set on, building some upper body strength because I want to learn how to sword fight. So, yeah, definitely. I need to know how to do that. And I'm serious. It's a true story.
You want to learn how to sword fight? I need to come and visit you because I've been wanting to do that for years.
Oh, come on. See? We know what? We will. We'll do it. Because I am determined. Yeah, I don't want to learn how to fence. No, I want to learn how to sword fight. I want to know, the real stuff.
Right. Yeah. But the strange thing is, Crystal, is in having these conversations with people, it's just, to my knowledge, I'm shocked that none of these things are being discussed. I think that there's a small amount of it being discussed, but it's not being discussed in the news media. It's being discussed, strangely enough, in reality television.
Right. Well, I almost think at this point we're starting to discuss it where we need to. But, it's sad for me. I'm 32 years old, and I sit here and I have these conversations with you, Gabby, and I sit here and I go, what the hell did I learn in school? Because I feel like I learned nothing. Nothing. And I'm trying to, the best books that I have read have been, on my own. In my own, like Howard Zinn. Why did I never read him in school? Like, what the frack? And, like, home ec, what a joke that was. Why was I not learning how to, like, make a bicycle generator? Like, what was my education? It was nothing.
You learned how to be like everyone else. To fit into a mold that's easily malleable so that you can go and plug yourself into that matrix and do the 9 to 5, job, kids, home, picket fence, be in debt. It's the debt slave school.
I tell you, it is. It sucks. It's crazy. I feel like, it's like a wasted 18 years. I mean, there's so many things that I feel like you could be teaching people, just children that would right the ship. Like, if you just switch the curriculum, a little bit and added in something like, oh my God, what a difference,
Yeah, I struggled in school. Well, not all the way through school, but I struggled in high school, because I felt like I was learning things that weren't going to apply to what I wanted to do. And I thought, why do I need to learn this amount of calculus? Because I don't like math anyway. I'm dyslexic when it comes to math. I'm a visual, hands-on learner. I'm not much of a math person. But yeah, I mean, there were a lot of things in school that are just not taught that should be taught. A lot of history lessons that I think went missing, that are probably way worse now than when I was in school. And I think my daughter came home from school one day. I was asking her if she learned about certain things yet. Have you learned about JFK or whatever? And I think they spent like one day on it, and that was it. And I was like, oh, Lord. But their literature, it wasn't terrible, although compared to what I was reading in high school, that was mandatory reading. I had to read Fahrenheit 451 and 1984. And, God bless my literature teacher.
I wish I had, damn it. I mean, yeah, I would say that my literature teacher was awesome. In just in his application of critical thinking skills that he put us all through. And he was my hardest class, and I absolutely loved it because the way he read it. But yeah, I'm like, math. I'm not a math person, and everything else. I'm sitting here thinking about it, and I'm just like, useless, absolutely fracking useless.
I learned everything I needed to know at the library, and just fiddle farting with computers. My dad was a computer programmer, and he brought home bits of gear, and my brother and I would take them apart and put them back together and write code, and so yeah, we had sort of a crash course in geeking at a very early age.
That's what's up.
Yeah, so I'm loving the whole radio technological stuff. So this is stuff I have not. It's a new realm for me, so I'm very excited because this is also a learning experience as much as it is me wanting to get education to people. I'm learning as I go. So yeah, you can learn a lot. I'm with Kurt Vonnegut. He fell in love with his library, and I think he said he learned more at the library than he did anywhere else. Or was that? No, that was Ray Bradbury. He didn't have a college degree, Ray Bradbury. He spent 10 years in a library and became one of the best sci-fi writers known to man.
That's how you do it. That's just how you do it. I think, yeah.
But when we were talking earlier about government and corruption and the Idle No More movement, I think that there is a really deep spiritual part of what's happening right now, and it's tough to deny. I'm not one for a lot of, unicorns and rainbow farts and stuff like that, but you cannot deny that there is a mass awakening happening. But I think that the issues that are really missing from the conversation when I think of spiritual leaders, they don't really go all the way when it comes to like climate or resource depletion. And they focus on hunger and poverty. And but that underlying issue. And there's so much wonderful stuff that can come from permaculture, localization, the DIY. And it really doesn't cost a lot of money to help people in small areas do so much with so little. And it's the knowledge that I think the knowledge is withheld or censored, except on the net. And now we're looking at people trying to get the net either shut down or censored. And
sometimes I don't think they thought that one through.
I don't think they did either.
I don't think they realized, it's a bridge builder. It really, really is. It is there's a lot of things I miss. Like, I love technology, kind of like you. And I as much as I love the ebook revolution, I hate it too, because I'm such I must have a book in my hands. I love the way they smell type person, you know what I'm saying? So, like, it's exciting, but, it's exciting in that era, when it's done. But some of the things, I'm just like, no, leave it alone. Like, I went to go buy a cell phone once, and I just wanted a cell phone. Like, I didn't want a Droid, I didn't want an iPhone, I just wanted a cell phone. And the guy looked at me like I was retarded. He's like, don't you get on the net? Phone? Yeah, he's like, don't you want to get on the net? I'm like, yes, that's why I have a computer.
Exactly. Well, you'd be amazed. There's an actual term called planned obsolescence, where these corporations build and build and build, and you build something one year and it's obsolete the next year, and what happens to the last one? Does it end up in a landfill? Do you give it away? What happens to all that stuff? But yeah, they only build things to last a certain amount of time now, so you have to replace it within not 10 years, or, it used to be I could get a tower, I could build a tower, and it would last me 10 years. Now I'm lucky if they last 5.
Right.
So
things just aren't made to. Yeah, that's what shop local people shop local.
Absolutely. And reuse. There's going to be someone in your area that knows how to fix computers, build computers. I mean, even from scratch. If you need a PC,
I can get an HP Mini for $150, like a good one.
Wow,
fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, I have a PC graveyard, which most geeks do. They had a closet full of, bits and pieces I just never did want to part with, because I knew I could slap them into another tower or do something else with them. They'd be useful for something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it's an exciting time. It is exciting. As depressing as it can be on some days, it is exciting too.
I agree. And that's where I'm coming from. I'm learning so much. I feel like I've come out the other side of a different rabbit hole, I guess. And finding other people, like-minded people, and people who are doing exactly what I have been wanting to do, and doing it well, and are open and giving and willing to share knowledge. It's just a marvelous thing. It's just an open, this is what community is, and it should happen everywhere. And we can make that happen. We just have to make it happen. We have to go do our best. Go forth, do your best.
Indeed. You know what? And I miss community. I do. And I sit here and think about it. And you really do miss that. Like, you think about kids nowadays, and we talk about this all the time, but it's such a big discord between then and now, when, you came inside when it was dark, or even if you didn't, mom didn't worry too much. Like, somebody screamed for you, or something happened. When you got in trouble, you got in trouble with everybody. Like, holy crap. Like, Jesus Christ, too, like, that's how it was. Just, it was one of those. And look, I love my computer, and I love all this stuff, and I love the technology, and I love all that, but I had a lot of fun going outside, kids. I'm just saying.
We used to play, we had this neighborhood game called Ghost in the Graveyard, and we would play hide and seek at night in other neighbors' yards, and everybody just knew us, It was
just whatever.
And, your parents would come holler for you to come in for dinner, and you'd go home and do it again the next night.
It was good stuff. It was good
but
stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know where we lost that. I just don't know. I don't know what happened.
Well, this urban sprawl. I mean, people were living in, suburbs, but a lot of people have been drawn to these larger cities. And all of a sudden, the country and the suburbs became this boring hinterland, and it's not really. Although I do have to say there's a lot of growth happening in some suburbs that's a little disturbing, to the point where I'm seeing, a lot of old growth being taken out for these little cracker box palace houses that look like army barracks to me. They're just miles of them.
It's a little scary.
Yeah. And then, no trees in the yard. Yeah, it's like, wow, really? People are getting busy, I guess, having kids. But, yeah, I think the point that you were making is, people missing, being a part of a community. And, we're taught that these big cities are the place to be. And, you get online and people, are rude to each other when they normally might not be. Like you'd be in a thread and somebody could haul off and say something really rude.
Oh yeah.
And you might not even know who's the person behind you.
Best.
People, yeah. I've learned to reel myself in on a lot of that. I used to be a master troll slayer, but I put the sword away. It was not good for she. Yeah, as it made me out of balance there for a while, but.
Oh yeah.
But when you get into that point where you're learning so much stuff and all this stuff is coming at you and you get frustrated, and someone sends you a note or something like, God, this dude on my page and he's just making an ass out of himself. Help. Okay, I'm in the mood.
Let's go. That's it.
Yeah. But everybody's dealing with their own crap, and
That's true.
And I've moved around to several different places, and it doesn't matter where you go. There are always going to be assholes. You just got to live with the fact that there's always going to be assholes around, and you just don't go where the assholes are. Don't invite them around. And find your people. Find the people that have the same interests that you do, that are learning the same things that you are, and you make better connections and better community that way. Instead of trying to, there's this really funny meme that I read not too long ago, about trying to convince these people, in these threads, these trolls, of something. And it's like, you're not the asshole whisperer.
That's awesome. You're not the asshole whisperer. That's the new awesome right there.
Why? That's all they want, is to get a rise out of you and continue to do so. And let's not forget, a lot of these people are paid to do it.
True. That's also very, very true.
Paid to do that. And they're kind of easy for me to spot anymore because they send you around in circles. And they never really answer a specific question, but bring another question that has nothing really to do with what you're discussing. And then I'm usually like, okay, I'm out. Enjoy your day.
Right. Exactly.
That's stuff to do.
And that's usually the thing about those people, is when you find that you're making, you're having an intelligent debate, like what you said pissed me off, but I'm coming at you with a solid point. And if they just skip over it or ignore it or whatever, don't waste your time. It's not even, you can't have a debate like that.
Links
you just end up just raising your blood pressure and, your head wants to explode.
Right. Yeah. Some people are just stuck on stupid.
There you go. It's true. Some people are.
But at the same time, I have to say this. The level of intelligence shows, to me, it's just proof of how awful the mainstream media has become. And because that is people's only kind of way to plug in to get information. And then you have cable, and then you have dishes with all these hundreds of channels, and you feel like you're getting a lot of like, wow, look at me. I have 200 channels, but most of what you're getting is a lot of garbage. So it's difficult for me. I don't own a television anymore. I quit watching television, got rid of it 4 years ago. And my brain and my heart and my soul has thanked me ever since. It's sort of like getting rid of the rude neighbor or the rude uncle that never shuts up.
There you
like,
go.
God, be quiet. And that 24-hour news cycle thing where things are just constantly reiterated and you feel like you're stuck and nothing ever changes. And of course there's the perpetual campaigning on both sides that just wears you out. And
yes, you know what, I'm about to I can't even do that anymore. I just can't.
I feel you.
I just can't.
I asked you the other day, how do you feel about politics? I said, I'm trying to quit.
Because there's no point. Because you know what? It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't. At all. I would much rather talk about what we as communities can fix, because at that level it's just gotten to the point where it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
And it's the best place to focus on. And if you want to focus on politics at all, focus locally. You know, tell your friends to run for office. Find your smart friends with the big hearts that love the place you live. And,
absolutely.
You know, tell them to run for office and do their part for where you're at. I mean, leaders, I hate to say leaders are everywhere. We're missing statesmen. We're missing people who really care, not just about a bit of paper, but about the people. You know, that's what's missing. And my experience is the people who, that I have met, the people who care about the land and the food, those are my people. And that's what I'm gravitating toward. Having grown up with, 2 sets of grandparents that both had victory gardens. I mean, they were master, victory gardeners. And growing up around canning and hearing stories about the Depression, these folks had moxie, and they didn't have a lot, but they had each other, and they were extremely happy people and funny. And they made fun. They made their own fun. And that's what I'm finding in this permaculture community and the local food communities, that people really, I mean, how can you not love a foodie? Who doesn't love food?
There you go. That's what's up.
Food rules. But we want to be able to let people know that there's an alternative to buying all this store-bought, processed garbage that will not only benefit your local economy, but your health and your soil and your air quality. I mean, it really is, it's a healing process, growing food. It's people who grow food just amaze me, really. Some people have a green thumb.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I'm learning whether I will or not. But yeah, like I said, I'm learning this too, so it's fun. So I'm excited about sharing all of this information and stories about it. Like just recently, my housemate, she's the head of the local Growers Guild here in Bloomington, Indiana, and we're getting 2 ducklings. I just found out 2 days ago we're getting ducks.
That is awesome.
Yeah, so I'm like a little kid.
That's super cool.
Yay for ducks. But yeah, I mean, aside from all that, and I'm sure this sounds kind of kooky to a lot of people. Oh, you're living on a farm and excited about ducks while all this other crazy stuff is happening. But why not? I mean, if that's what makes you happy.
We need to be more excited about those awesome little things.
Yeah, I mean, that's really little things are the hinges of the universe, in my opinion.
I agree. I agree.
But yeah, speaking of samurai swords, I was thinking about mainstream media last night, and when we're talking about all the lessons that we're missing through mainstream media, that we're finding online, and people who are getting together in groups and studying and learning, basically learning how to wade through propaganda. And I'm not going to lie, it's not easy, because it's, it sticks in your craw. It's meant to screw with your psyche. I know there's probably
PSN radio. It's fine. Don't worry.
Get used to that.
It's good to go. That'll be your soundbite for the evening.
Thanks. But yeah, I mean, mainstream media has been around for a long time, and I don't think it's not always been horrible. And I can give several examples, but the one example I want to give is Edward R. Murrow. He's the guy that took on, now I'm drawing a blank, Senator McCarthy, and basically, sent Senator McCarthy packing with his tail between his legs. And this was someone who broadcast on a regular basis on a major outlet. It was ABC at the time. And the award for excellence in journalism was named after him. Okay. So you get an idea of how important this person was initially. And if you haven't seen Good Night and Good Luck, the movie, I highly recommend it. It speaks very, it speaks a lot to what is going on with mainstream media. And in fact, it's worse now, but, there are a lot of poignant moments in that film that I think everyone would enjoy. But, Edward R. Murrow is like one of my heroes. And because he held people to task, he wasn't afraid. And he had people working with him that were not afraid, and they backed him up. And it's people like that are missing. Yeah. People like that are missing from media. And perhaps they are in other outlets that I have not heard yet. Like Free Press TV has some great shows. There are a lot of Chris Hedges. I mean, he's a marvelous writer, passionate, just an amazing writer. Dr. Cornel West, tells it like it really is. And, my friend Guy McPherson, a great writer with a great sense of humor to boot. So it's interesting actually to get climate data from him that's just really dire with that mix of humor, because he does have a great sense of humor. And it unnerves you, but at the same time it disarms you. So
that's the best way.
Yeah, so you feel like, well, he doesn't seem like he's feeding me a light of shit, he seems pretty okay. And it turns out he is. He's actually a really awesome guy. Doc. Hi, Doc, if you're listening in. He's been signaling these warnings for far longer than I would have when I was learning about even peak oil. But the thing that amazed me about this person is he walked away from his entire working life and his career because he understood that his actions, as well as all of our actions, what they were costing the living planet, our dependence on them, and, a government and an education system that is pretty much hell-bent on ignoring science and reality. So it's like this vicious circle, where you get back to corruption and its impacts, not just on the environment, but people. So holistically, I mean, you think about the whole planet, corruption just, it worms its way into everything. And there's, especially when you're talking about media, all of these lessons have been around for ages. They're just harder for us to grasp because we didn't pay attention to the lessons before. And that's the biggest gripe I have about media, because words are very powerful things, and you either wield them like Mr. Magoo wielding a samurai sword, and if you've ever seen Mr. Magoo, he never gets injured, but all the people around him end up in a world of pain.
There you go, because he's just that badass.
Yeah. But yeah, frankly, and this is where my intentions are with the Refreshment Center, because the Refreshment Center is like my baby. I've been working on it for years. And just in the last 2 years, I've brought in blog contributors and like Dr. McPherson and Christopher Weller, both of whom will be on my next show on February 1st, by the way.
That's very exciting.
Yes, I'll be thrilled to have them on. And comedian Lee Camp, we share his Moments of Clarity videos on a regular basis on the blog, and I got to meet him not too long ago, a couple weeks ago. But for me personally, the Refreshment Center has always been sort of a spiritual undertaking, because any real spiritual undertaking requires a search for truth. And that's really what I've done over the course of, well, since the BP spill, maybe before. But that awakening process for me has been about not so much seeking deeper meaning, because I already had a lot of deep meaning in my life, but I needed to seek out what was wrong with the world. Like, I knew things were kind of messed up, but I didn't realize
like a different perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny. When I was like 8 or 9 years old, I had this recurring nightmare that, like, and it's weird. I would have nightmares about ghosts and goblins and monsters and stuff. And they didn't really freak me out too much, but I had this reoccurring, disturbing dream about these people in a room around a table making decisions about my life. And that scared me more than any monster, because I couldn't see their faces. And they were talking about me and I didn't know who they were. And all of these things were happening in this room without my consent. And
that's deep.
Yeah, I know. It kind of freaks me out a little bit now that I'm older. It's like, hey, maybe I had a... Nah, I'm not going to go there.
Different show, right?
Show, absolutely. But yeah, that search for truth, whether that's your own truth after dealing with any kind of suffering that brings you to yourself after suffering. I mean, that's the one thing that we all have in common. I mean, it's just the Buddhist thing. We all suffer. That's how we're all connected, and we can all understand each other's suffering if we take time to put ourselves in other people's shoes and go, wow, we can help alleviate each other's suffering. And that's the purpose has always been my purpose in the journey that I've been on. But that suffering that you experience on your own brings you to the awakening of the outer world in wanting to help others.
It's a beautiful thing. It really is, because it almost gives that suffering purpose. And for me, it allowed me to look back on some of the lowest points in my life in a positive way, because they almost became, necessary for kind of the catalyst that they provided me, into this next phase. So I was able to appreciate them more. I was able to appreciate what I learned from them more. And it almost, it made them, it almost like, took some of the pain of it away.
Oh, absolutely. That's like that trial by fire thing where a lot of people will hear the words, all things happen for a reason. And some people will roll their eyes or go, whatever,
There are definitely days I've had those feelings. So I completely understand. There are some days you're just like, you know what, tell me it's fate one more freaking time.
Right. But yeah, I call myself a spiritual person. I do not consider myself a leader. I maybe consider myself a healer in a lot of ways. And I'm possibly a teacher just because I'm in communications and that's my gift. And now I've just gotten to that point where this is what turns me on. This is my modus operandi, if you will. But I think my complaint, when I think of spiritual leaders, they really need to speak to the true crisis we face right now. So the ones who claim this sort of delusion of, they need to instruct rather than, smile or die or happy at all costs stuff. And that just wears thin with me. And I can't view those people as leaders because of that fact. Like maybe they don't want to be leaders. They just want to be healers. But, if you're skirting a lot of reality, you're really not serving people by helping them prepare for things that are coming. And people really do need to know what's going on so that they can prepare for changes that are coming. And I think that's where the spiritual stuff comes in, because our own truth met with all of these mass changes comes in, because we have to grapple with the reality every day. Because it changes so quickly now. I mean, doesn't it seem that way to you? Everything's changing really fast.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Time is definitely speeding up. So, yeah. From a spiritual, from the fun spiritual, we're definitely getting a lot more of what we are.
Yeah. And I realize not everyone, my story's always going to be, everybody's story is different. Mine, I know, is like really different from many other people's stories. And not everyone has the time or the luxury of sequestering themselves in a hotel to do research or whatever, But at the time that happened, that was what was right for me. And I'm glad I did it, because it pulled me through this rabbit hole a little faster, I guess. Mm-hmm. It was like the dark night of the soul in a way, but I feel like those experiences will help me help others deal with these changes as much as possible, as much as I can help, and then introduce ways to make this DIY stuff and aid them through transition that's already happening. Unfortunately, it's just happening, and we just need to deal with it.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
So rather than hope for change,
create it. That can be one of the most frustrating for me, and one of the most, kind of fun things when you just mentioned spirituality in general, and you were talking about some of the leaders you can get down with and assume, that you can't really vibe with. And that's what you find in this awesome journey is that, no one person is going to have all the right answers from you. You were just talking about how you became awake, and that was a very personal journey from you. And some people will, be able to share it, and you'll be able to teach, and some people will have, someone else's journey. And that's really the awesome thing about it, is it's all different, but we're all kind of coming to the same conclusions. So it's like everybody's going to have that different trigger, that different catalyst.
Sure. Yeah. It's sort of like, it's almost like we're all in the same college, but we're in different courses, or like different teachers. We gravitate to different teachers, and that's okay. It all works out in the end. And like I said, I do have my own personal, I get rubbed the wrong way by some stuff, but I don't name names. People, whatever gets you through the night, especially now, if it makes you feel good and can get you through another day, bless you. I'm not mad. But at the same time, I feel like, okay, we're adults here. And, if I can handle this information, everyone can. So yeah, instead of hope for change, we need to learn to embrace Gandhi's notion of being the change. But now we need to do it. We got to do it wholeheartedly and act upon it with total integrity and without a moment's delay. So if you're waiting on something, stop.
Real. There's nothing to wait on. There's just not. It's going to be us or it's not going to be. And that's awesome, because that means that when you think about everything that's wrong, you realize, oh, well, we can fix it, so that's fine. We just have to get started.
Yeah, carpe diem, seize the day. So yeah, the plans for the radio station.
Well, I mean, we've got, we're down to 12 minutes here, so absolutely, now's the perfect time for it.
Okay, great. Well, what I aim to do, again, like pulling a bow and arrow, your aim may be good and it may be true, but if it's not strong enough, it may miss the mark in a couple places, but I'm one of those people that will roll with it. And I also want to get input from listeners. After you've listened to this, maybe you have some suggestions of things that you would like for TRC to cover, specifically in regards to social, economic, environment, localization, resilience, DIY, permaculture. I mean, there's just a vast pool of information to work with, and I have a lot of sources and resources, and I really want to know what you guys are hungry for, because I feel like I'm providing something that I've been hungry for, and I can't be the only one. I know it's not just me.
Preach.
Sorry. Much of the work that had previously been done had been done solo, like the story I told with the whole blog thing. But I can't continue to do what I would really like to do without listener support and reader support. So I have developed this fundraiser called the $5 Fist Bump for free speech. Boy, that is a tongue twister.
You said that very well. The $5 Fist Bump. Whoa.
$5 fist bumps.
That's serious.
What I've noticed about some free press outlets, and some of them I enjoy reading, and they do have great writers, but they tend to inundate the hell out of you for fundraisers. And I don't know where that money goes. I'm not sure who gets paid with that money. And I was reading earlier how, some of these folks will raise money and say it's for, we need this so that we can cover this for these activists. And how do I know that that money is going where it's supposed to go? And you really don't. And when people are asking for money consistently, and their goals are so large, you wonder, who owns this? And I think that one of the biggest lessons I can give to anyone who's trying to wade through mainstream media and can't quite figure out who's, pulling your leg and who's not, follow the money. Follow the money. That's really all you need to know. And I will point you to the direction of this wonderful site that I used for years called Muckety, Muckety, Muckety Maps. And it's a system of maps, like flowcharts, that shows you these vast connections between people and corporations, and it's a very interesting rabbit hole to go down. I used it quite a lot in my research, and call that a gift.
Nice. Gabby, we've got a question from the chat room. Sean wants to know, is there any chance of a roundtable discussion?
Roundtable discussion on the radio, or?
I'm assuming, yeah, probably on the radio. Sean, on the radio? Waiting for the response.
Or is he talking about? I'm sorry.
We're going to find out. We just asked Sean. He's going to tell us.
All right, great.
When are you back on next, Gab?
February 1st.
That's what's up, everybody. So February 1st, 8 to 10. Am I right? Yeah, I'm right. 8 to 10. For February 1st, so it's every Friday night, 8 to 10. Right here on, is it really Friday? Holy crap, where did the week go?
I know. The time.
Right here on the Public Service Network, you will find TRC Radio. Sean says, who wins, who loses, and what's the stakes are good questions, too.
Who wins, who loses, and what are the stakes?
Yeah, and what's at stake?
What's at stake? Well, That's a very vague question.
I think he's saying that those are good questions to ask, maybe for like a roundtable discussion on whatever.
Yeah, that's what I need from him is, Sean, thank you very much for the question. What a roundtable discussion about what exactly? Because I have mentioned quite a bit here. You're going to have to narrow it down for me, brother.
Definitely. Gabby, why don't you also give people, I think, web address and email address too? Do it.
Oh, yes. Thank you for reminding me of that.
No problem.
We are at www.therefreshmentcenter.com. You can email me directly at admin@therefreshmentcenter.com. When you go to the website, there's 2 ways to donate, and like I said, the $5 fist bump is something that we're just gonna throw out there every Friday, and we have one yearly goal of $15,000 set to hit by May 5th. So 555 is when it'll end. And that's it. You won't hear us asking for any more money during the year. My costs are so low, and what I'm learning to do, they'll get even lower as I go. So, you guys helping is just stellar. And, I have to thank everyone who has donated and bought t-shirts and stickers and photographs as well. And, I'm actually going to have some freebies on upcoming shows. Still haven't decided what to do there. Well, maybe I can get some folks in the chat room to give me an idea of maybe a trivia question or about current events or something like that, and the winner gets a prize.
All cool ideas. All cool ideas, definitely. Sean says, yes, so for the roundtable, he was just talking about like a panel of experts discussing together on the radio. So, yeah, he's really looking forward to that. So, Sean, make sure you email Gabby and let her know some of the topics that you would like to hear covered on that roundtable discussion.
Yes, absolutely. I would be very interested to know what you're interested in. And, I hope that you guys will tune in the February 1st. We'll have Dr. Guy McPherson. He was professor emeritus at University of Arizona. And he's a leading writer and lecturer on climate change. And Mr. Christopher Weller, who is one of my blog contributors at TRC, who was kind enough to write exclusives for me. He has been a guest on Michael Rupert's radio show, and he's a wonderful person. And we're going to be talking about transition on the spiritual level, I believe.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Meg wants to know, for a future show, Gabby, because we're running out of time here, but what you think about the Rolling Jubilee?
Oh, it's fantastic.
There we go. That was easy. Meg, question answered.
Yeah, support it.
And Gabby, can you give us those questions, those email addresses one more time so I can type them out in the chat room, please?
Oh, certainly. You can email admin@therefreshmentcenter.com, or you can even type in Gabby, Gabby, @therefreshmentcenter.com. That works too.
Excellent. And where are you on Facebook?
The Book of Faces, facebook.com/Refreshment Center. And I also have a Zazzle store if you guys want to go check out some of the gear that I might be giving away as freebies. It's Zazzle.com, A Golden Promise.
There we go. So, everybody, this was Gabby's first show. We are happy to have the Refreshment Center right here on the Public Service Network. It has been an awesome, awesome time.
Thank you so much.
Solutions and all kinds of crap are going on up in here. It's awesome.
Get excited, man. I'm so juiced to be doing this show for you guys. Gonna look forward to it.
Definitely. And that's a great lineup for next week. So, everybody, make sure you are back here. Public Service Network, www.psnradio-radio psn-radio.com. Holy crap.
Don't get it.
www.psn-radio.com. Or just go to the SoupMediaNetwork.com. That is how you hear Gabby. If you were listening to this on archive, do not forget that during live shows, you can hang out with Gabby in the chat room. Go to psn-radio. I'm an expert now. .com. Click on the banner. It'll pop you right into the chat room, and you can hang out with us. You can ask questions. You can interact with Gabby during the show. All that good stuff. The call-in number in the chat room is how you're going to be able to reach her. Don't forget to wait for her to tell you that phone lines are open. So, Gabby, when are you going to be back? Tell everybody again.
And wish me luck because, this tech stuff is new to me. So, next Friday, February 1st, 8 to 10 p.m. with guest Dr. Guy McPherson and Christopher Weller.
That's what's up.
And thank all of you very much for tuning in and for your questions tonight. I really enjoyed being here, talking to you guys.
And that's it.
We can all build a better media. Know it.
Good night, everybody. I didn't even want to say anything after that. That's it. I'm going to leave it with that. Good night, everybody.
Good night.